Sup everybody, what's going on? Hellboy. Yep. Hellboy is a good one, and I've always been a kid and I was interested in that kind of character, so I decided to play this game. So today we're gonna have this review. Instantly the mention of the roguelike elements in the game piqued my curiosity, and that was no means the first appearance of the Hellboy in the video game, through as he has made guest appearances and had several games of his own over the years. However, his solo outings have been fairly generic and not great in the way that the licensed games tend to be. The fact that Web of Wyrd has the gameplay design beyond the generic action is an immediately plus, as another reason to play beyond the fact that Hellboy it isn't, and how it plays and ties into the Hellboy story. That's very, very interesting. Set in early 80s, strange anomalies have been recorded across the world, and the BPRD has sent to investigate. Instead of going to the location one by one of these anomalies, Hellboy is sent to the Argentina, to a mansion called the Butterfly House. This strange shifting structure was built on the occultist named Pascal Dinividox for the purpose of opening the gateway into the world, an alternate dimension where the rules of reality are different and its effects are stranding to be felt in the world. There are several entrances to the world in the Butterfly House, which are leading to a different version of the dimension, and Hellboy must investigating them to locate the missing owner of the house and find a way to stop the anomalies. This is where the game ties roguelike elements, as each visit to the world is different from the last. Well, in gameplay terms, you enter the world and move room from one to another, finding enemies, picking up buffs, dodging traps, or spending your earned currency on upgrades. Combat is the meat of the game, and all the things I think the Capcom's forgotten, but of our God Hand is the closest thing I can compare it not to. Not for only variety of the moves, but for one-on-one over-the-shoulder camera, hard-hitting rolling style. Also, both stories featured a protagonist with the one particularly strong arm. Further, both Hellboy and God of Hand have thematic ties to legendary manga series of the Berserk, which is a topic I could write all about and say all about, so softens it to say. Fans of these very particular properties are likely to be very happy with the Web of Wyrd. The combat is similar to the God Hands, but much more streamlined, simplified level. Hellboy has two ways to hurt the enemies, the punch and the shot. You can also dodge, block, and use the relic of the customizable effect, like pulling enemies towards you, shielding yourself, and dealing health damage that ignores toughness, which adds you up a simple but effective combat system. In each room you enter, you will face a handful or small enemies, led by one or two, or sometimes three, or larger enemies. The enemies, small enemies, are largely inconsequential, as you primarily go to defeat the big bads in one-on-one fights. Initially, the system might seem a bit strange, and if you have played or other roguelike like Hades, you will be familiar with the entering a room and taking down all manner of enemies within it. In the Hellboy Web of Wyrd, however, you only need to defeat the large enemies, as doing so will make smaller ones disappear immediately. Even if there are multiple large enemies, for the most part, they will fight you one-on-one. These single combat fights are really engaging, as you have to learn the attacks these large opponents perform, so you know which way to dodge, and you can block it. The game has a toughness system which gives all enemies and Hellboy a temporary bar on the top of their existing health, which must be broken throughout to do lasting damage and regenerate over the time. This adds strategy to the fight, as you must manage both of your toughness and all of that enemies. You must determine when the pepper the enemy will strike to wear down their toughness, when they can hold off, and when to go for the kill. The rhythm of the combat in Web of Wyrd establishes itself early and distinctly, and before you complete your first run, you should have a good grasp of what the game expects of you. The body language of the first enemies you fight rings throughout the game, meaning once you learn those first few opportunities, you will be ready for what comes later. It's a beautiful thing when the game establishes itself so well that you can enter a new room with the enemies you have never fought before, very quickly read their movements, and instantly understand how they fight. By keeping the basics of the combat simple, the game gives you player agency, then creativity in the fights you build might not be deep as you would like, but the combat is always engaging and fun. That is where some roguelike fans might fall off. This is where not the game where you do run after run to see the numbers go up. There are upgrades to unlock, they become increasingly important as the game progresses, but this is not the type of the game when you combine certain items and abilities into the hyper-focused build to become a god killer. You are the Hellboy, you punch the things, that more is enough. Hellboy, the Web of Wyrd might not be the deepest roguelike experience, and it's likely won't draw over the crowds from Hades or the Dead Cells. That said, gameplay-wise, it is doing something which is more can be said for the licensed games. It has those moments where the merchant and get together and you feel the game. Tangibly makes you sense in your hands, and they are extremely satisfying. In the lot of the fun to be Hellboy, it's not equally just the much of the to be in the world of the Hellboy. The creators of the Hellboy, like Mike Mignola, has a direct influence on the development of the game, and it shows. Even as someone only moderately familiar with the Hellboy and works with Mignola can feel the soul of the creator in the Web of Wyrd. A defining characteristic of the Hellboy is deep, inky black, and the shadows of the page, like voids, that Colcom always fall into. This translates beauty to the Web of Wyrd, and strangely so. Video games have often tried to ape the visual style of the comic books, with some stand-off achievements such as the Borderlands series that the work Telltale Games named The Wong of the Mounts and The Walking Dead. Hellboy, Web of the Wyrd is easily a part of those games, for well it translates the work of the artist from the page of 3D polygonal world. Once the crowd game may bring over us is Destiny audience. Mara Junot, the voice of Ikora, plays the commander of the mission. Hellboy is played by Commander Zavala himself. Lance Reddick performance is a stark contrast of the Ron Perlman and Dave Harbour, but no less authentically Hellboy. Sadly, this must be the last appearance of the Lance Reddick in the video game, as he passed away this year. What do I say? The verdict. So it's hard to imagine the game drawing the many players would be already have their heads turned by handball game in the failed place, but there are more than enough meat on the bones to create the new fans of those who've given it a try. Hellboy Web of Wyrd looks incredible, sounds fantastic, and plays exactly how you want a Hellboy game to play. If you have ever looked at the massive stone first Hellboy right arm and truth, I bet it will be a lot of fun punching big monsters with that. You were correct, and Web of Wyrd is the proof, especially when those giant moments are Nazis. Well, thank you for watching, don't forget to comment and subscribe, peace.